climate change is the defining issue of our time. Given the Caribbean's size, it might seem that we don't have a lot to contribute to the global debate and our own survival. But impressions can be misleading. Professor Michael Taylor and the Climate Studies Group at Mona have contributed to the global climate debate. Taylor is an architect of the 1.5 to Stay Alive movement, which made its way into the International Panel on Climate Change report, of which he is an author.
When I think about the 1.5 to Stay Alive, where he was a part of that team that took the information to the discussion so that all the world could recognize that 3 degrees was unacceptable, 2 degrees is bad, 1.5 is what we need to stay alive. And the Caribbean led that, and Michael Taylor and the Climate Studies Group was a big part of that.
Off the world stage, Professor Taylor's impact on the Caribbean is incalculable. At the turn of the century, as the climate issue was becoming more prominent, the Caribbean suffered for a lack of data for planning and projections.
So there was climate information out there, but they would treat the whole Caribbean as a single entity and give, single-digit projections of what the temperatures will become for the entire Caribbean. But we know that the Caribbean has lots of sub-regional variations, and even within a country, the scale of the small islands, it has a lot of variation.
The vehicle for this was the Climate Studies Group at UWI Mona, which was founded by Professor Anthony Chen in 1994 and which Taylor took over in the early 2000s. This has become the central institution of the region's response to climate change.
A lot of Michael's work really extends and makes available climate information to the social science community to help support planning, decision making. So it moves a lot of the work out of the science realm into really the applications realm, and where you can actually use the information to make decisions about society.
Professor Taylor's leadership has been one we would describe as transformational. It is through his leadership that we have expanded and engaged more with communities, have designed tools under his guidance, and have engaged a number of stakeholders so that persons understand more how the climate has changed and how it will impact livelihoods. It's through his leadership that we have engaged government and different parties on how we respond to climate change and the need to have it on our developmental agenda continually.
What I like about Professor Taylor's work is that it's not just restricted within the scientific community. A lot of the research that the Climate Studies Group does, including our State of the Climate reports for Jamaica for 2012 and 2015, it has been distilled into a summary for policymakers, and the policymakers then are connected with people on the ground that go into communities, and they help them to build resilience.
Professor Taylor's work is ample evidence of his gifts as a scientist, but it says nothing of his work as a teacher. His students speak of his inspiration as a mentor and his ability to speak science to those who might not be scientists.
Sitting and listening to Professor Taylor actually talk about physics, you saw physics actually come alive. So it wasn't just formulas, seeing formulas in the book, seeing formulas on the lecture slides. We were actually relating to the physics when he taught physics. Professor Taylor to me is more than a supervisor. He is someone that cares. He really looks out for his students. He tries to seek out opportunities outside of being within the university, which is the reason I'm here right now.
This ability to bring science to the non-scientists might be crucial, as the Caribbean is already in the grip of many effects of climate change, and the future does not look promising for tourism, food security, and health.
The best case scenario to me would be, if we in fact take on the mitigation, adaptation, and education programs and, work out the modalities and to implement them. And I'm being careful here because clearly within each country, how you take it on will differ depending on the context. But if you take it on according to your situation and context, I think we would see transformed economies. The worst case scenario is that we don't take this seriously enough, that we think that climate change is something for somebody else to deal with, or that we don't need to put climate change consideration in all our development planning. if we don't, well, we already see it. Climate is, moving at a faster pace than we are. And so you get that kind of devastation that you saw across the Eastern Caribbean in 2017, that we can't easily or quickly recover from.
For his achievements as a scientist and as a teacher, and for his work in creating and disseminating knowledge about climate change, the most crucial issue of our time, Professor Michael Taylor of Jamaica has been named the Anthony and Sabga Caribbean Awards for Excellence Laureate in Science and Technology for 2019.